What is the biggest problem in most relationships? If you had to guess what marriage counselors, business coaches, executive consultants, and effective leaders are always talking about with their clients and staff, what do you think that is? The answer is communication, but it is far more complex than that. I am going to share something today that I believe will help you have more credibility with your friends, family, and coworkers. It's going to help you avoid disappointment with your friends and could possibly change your relationships for the better if you can apply it in your life. Join me today as we explore one simple tool that will help you communicate effectively and efficiently and prevent disappointment and conflict. So before we dive into the content, make sure to smash the like button to appease the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to the channel to get more applicable and actionable personal and professional development content. This is Know.Lead.Grow, and I'm a personal and business coach, an HR consultant, and my goal on this channel is to bring content that is typically only reserved for business executives and owners to really more of the people that actually need it. Subscribe to the channel to get regular content that will help you grow both personally and professionally. So before we talk communication, let me tell you a quick thing about myself that I know drives my friends crazy. One of my favorite things to do with people is go grab food. Spending time with friends eating is one of my absolute favorite things to do, and one of my mentors told me when I was younger, never eat alone if you want to have influence, and so I try and make that a reality. So here's how that typically goes for me. I'll shoot a text to my friend, "Hey, you want to go grab food?" He says, "Sure, when?" And I say, "Let's do it in an hour. I'll be coming from my office." My friend says, "All right, so 2 hours then?" And I said, "No, I should be leaving here in 20 minutes or so. I'll be there early." My friend says, "Okay, I'll see you in an hour and a half." Now, you may be thinking, it sounds like your friends don't really trust you. And to that, you would be correct when it comes to time. I am notoriously awful at estimating time frames, and it's something that I've worked on quite a bit recently. What I am going to share with you today is something that I've been incorporating into my own life and relationships that's helped change the way that I interact with people and the way they perceive me. Yes, I know that example that I just gave is dumb, but let's take a minute and break down what actually is causing my friend to say what he does there. The reality is that my friend is trying to prevent the annoyance and disappointment of showing up to meet me at a restaurant and having to wait by themselves for me to arrive much later than I said I would. I'd be annoyed too if that happened. Disappointment at its core is really just unmet expectations. And effective communication is the way to combat unmet expectations. Set the proper expectations and then they aren't unmet. But that is much more difficult than it might seem on the surface. How do we communicate better? Why is it sometimes we think we've said one thing and then people hear another thing? How do we prevent people from misunderstanding what we're saying? While this is an ongoing process, there's no simple fix. There are communication frameworks that you can integrate into your life. They're going to help give common language and increase understanding between people. Let me give you a few examples. In my business coaching, the most common problem in most businesses is the lack of common leadership and development language. For example, one manager might say, "I'm really looking for someone with a lot of grit." And a recruiter might understand grit as somebody who's worked at one job for a long time. Or another manager might understand grit to be working in a very labor-intensive job. Or somebody else might think grit is pushing through and persevering. Because the word grit can be used to mean a number of things, each side assumes that they understand, when in reality, nobody understood. Another example might be, "We really need someone that's a talker on this project to do the presentation." Others might understand that to mean that the manager wants a smooth talker, somebody who has great presentation skills. Somebody else might have interpreted that as they just need somebody who can be friendly and make friends with the group they're presenting to. In both of these examples, when different people understand words to mean different things, miscommunication happens, expectations are unmet, and disappointment and annoyance ensue. We can prevent these things with common language, as I mentioned. And I want to introduce a very simple framework for communication that will help start that process for you. And it is incredibly simple. It can be shared with friends, family, kids, adults, CEOs, the lowest employee on the corporate ladder. It works for all of them. I teach this framework as provisional, plan, and promise, and here's how it works. We often say things to people that are interpreted as a promise when we really only were just brainstorming out loud. Sometimes we mean something to be a promise, but people didn't think we were serious. Sometimes we have a plan and we say so, but things change and we have to pivot. All of these situations cause disappointment and unmet expectations. So it's very important that when we are saying things to other people, especially those we want to build trust with, that we make sure that it is clear which of these things we are doing. If I mean to come across and communicate something as set in stone, that I know it will happen with full certainty, then I label that as a promise. If I mean for something to be communicated as something that I fully intend to do other than crazy circumstances, then I communicate that that is my plan. And if I'm just thinking out loud and I'm brainstorming, then I communicate that what I'm doing is provisional. These are three very simple terms, but they go a long way in establishing that common language. When people I work with and folks that I'm friends with hear me tell them that something is my plan, now they know what that means for me. If I say this is provisional, they know I'm brainstorming or they know I'm thinking aspirationally. You can implement this same framework in your own life within your various circles. The most awkward part of it is actually establishing the language with the people you know. My suggestion is start with your kids. Set the words that you're going to use in the language, provisional, plan, promise, so that it applies to both you and to them. It's important that these words apply to both of you, and then you're going to make sure that you clarify every time when you communicate with your kids to make sure which of them you're talking about. So if they ask you when you're going to be home from work, make sure that you communicate whether that's a plan or a promise. Don't say you'll promise to be home at 6 o'clock if that's really just your plan. Don't mention a vacation to Disney World if it's just provisional unless you make that clear to them. How upset would your kids be if they thought that you had promised that we would be going to Disney World and in your head it was simply provisional? So what you do instead is you communicate to your kids, I know this is just provisional, but it might be possible. Let's think about maybe going to Disney World next year. They know that that's a possibility, but it's not set in stone. Expectations aren't unmet if it doesn't happen. That's the power of common language, and we'll explore more examples of common language on this channel that you can keep applying to your life. So again, use the common language, use these three words, provisional, plan, and promise. Set the expectations with your kids, with your family, with your coworkers. It's a small step towards common language and better communication. So, do you ever have issues with communication that cause problems in your work relationships or at home? Is this quick communication framework something that you think you could implement in your family or in your business? Let me know in the comments of the video. Make sure to like the video to help the channel grow and subscribe to the channel for more content that will help you both personally and professionally. Make sure to also follow me on Twitter at Know.Lead.Grow for more content there as well. Thank you for watching, everybody. Check out one of these videos here that you might like, and I'll see you in the next one.